Dan, it's an amazing morning out here. You'll probably hear heavy artillery, 155mm artillery behind us. It's counter-battery fire. This position is being fired on. We can see in the background black smoke from a village. We're with the command element. It's a very dramatic scene. We have the XO, the commander here, calling in airstrikes. They're just calling the Cobra to come in. And what they found is that there's a tank in this particular city. It's right next to a mosque. And interestingly, the way they target that is they actually have artillery rounds which will come up, go in, land, go into the ground, and then explode to kill the tank and cause as little damage to the mosque as possible. Now, they are engaging Republican Guard. The enemy here on the ground have black berets and camouflage suits. What they're most concerned about, Dan, is what's called a BM-21. This can launch 40 rockets at a time. It is their best chemical munitions holder. There is one in the city, and I can't tell you what city it is, that's just up the road here, and they're concerned that they would use these chemical weapons. You can hear the thunder now of the rockets in the background. We have a Cobra helicopter coming up here close to air support. Dan, it's a lot like watching a football coach during the Super Bowl. They're out there, they have their maps, they have their game diagrams. Just an amazing display, Dan.
Bob, can you tell us anything more about these 4 members of the unit you're with who were killed?
Dan, I can't. I just got word of it and as we get word of most things when we're on the air here. It's sort of a black hole in terms of hearing other things. Spirits are pretty high here, pretty charged up in terms of taking on attacking the enemy. We have not heard that report.
Now, let me ask you again. You say that they saw a tank located right next to a mosque. Is the belief that this was done intentionally as a way to protect that tank against United States attacks, because the U.S. forces would be reluctant to attack something so close to a mosque?
Absolutely. In fact, I was able to take pictures of an armored personnel carrier with red crescent on the side that had rockets and grenades, had very heavy weapons inside. They've been hiding them in hospitals. They've been using hospitals as command headquarters. They're actually hospitals that are housing some tanks at this point. We've been able to get this on a case-by-case basis. They know they're going to be killed, and so they're trying to hide, to bunker down, to put their weapons in places. But interesting, this BM-21 is a very important weapon system to concentrate on because it's small, it's mobile, it's a brand-new weapon. I'm asking them this morning, since we have all this artillery out there, why they're not hitting it. And they said that it's just too hard. It just moves too quickly. Now, we were hit with artillery, medium-range artillery from the Iraqis, pretty close, within a couple hundred yards of us. Just boom, boom, the whole ground started shaking. And interestingly, even the veterans out here are a little unnerved by that artillery because there's just nothing they can do. The tactic out here is gun and run. They'll go, they'll shoot, they'll move their weapons and try and get out of the grid before there's incoming artillery fire that would otherwise take them out. They're also doing that with 60mm mortars. Well, they'll take it, they'll throw the mortar in, they'll try and hit the U.S. Marines, and then they'll gun back out again. They expect to take casualties. They're trying to take as few as possible. I talked to the first lieutenant out of here. He is a University of Minnesota graduate last year, and he's saying, listen, I want to bring all my men home. There's a real impetus to bring their men home, but these Marines are anxious to pull the trigger. They're not going to pull the trigger when it's a civilian. We just actually had about 10 civilians walk right past us here. They're very respectful for them, and yet civilians, or those appearing to be civilians, are actually Republican Guard hiding up in town here. That was very important about this battle, and I'll tell you later where we are, but I can't right now for operational reasons, is it's the first real engagement with the Republican Guard. They're getting a sense of their tactics, how they play. This is a thinking man's game. Even though there is overwhelming force on the part of the U.S., the enemy does have tactics. Some of these have been able to kill U.S. Marines and wound U.S. Marines, and yet, and in fact, Dan, I'm watching right now. This is dramatic. So I have 2 helicopters coming here. They're both Cobra gunships. Probably a little bit longer. You'll hear them come right by me here. They'll come up the main road here. They've been told to go steal. They're going to come in and go into those targets. They have their Hellfire missiles. They have the flechettes, which are able to take out troops on the ground. You can hear overhead close air support. It's a very dramatic scene here. We are with a command element. It leapfrogs forward, backwards. The brigade will go forward, and they'll leapfrog forward here. There are lots of maps out here. You have commanders. They're on the radios. They're screaming at each other. I'm stepping back a little bit so you don't hear too much of that noise. Lots of antennas there. But it's just better than any war movie you've ever seen. Not that war is good, but in terms of just the pure drama of the moment, with the tanks and the half-tracks and the Amtraks and the double AVs and the LAVs all running in town, you'd be interested that when they're engaging the Fedayeen, they actually take these light armored vehicles. They're called LAVs. They go up to 60, 65, 70 miles an hour. They race into town. They engage them. And the locals, the Fedayeen, now call them the destroyers. And they're very fearful of them. And when they see them, some of them melt away, some will give up. But the Fedayeen, which are the hardest troops really to be able to get these death squads, when the American troops come up, they'll actually say, shoot me, Allah, shoot me, Allah. So they have this same kind of Al-Qaeda, I want to die for Allah, which makes them a very, very tough enemy in terms of guerrilla forces. Now, you hear that rumble in the background, Dan? I'm just going to come over here, aim the earpiece. That sort of woof, 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 woof. Those are the Cobra helicopters. We're only about a half a mile from this village. There's number one, number two. We're watching the close air strikes here. They have 155-millimeter howitzer behind it. A variety of different kinds of rounds they're able to put in. They put in RAPS rounds last night. Much more dedicated munitions here. The air crews are working so hard. These are the first Cobras they've been able to get. They've been doing most of it on the ground, real grunt work. They have forward officers in the town there, directing traffic in, directing the howitzer. Here's the second Cobra coming in. They're only about 50 feet over the ground, coming in at about 120 miles an hour for their airstrike. So the Marines out here are actually very sort of disenchanted with the BBC in particular. That's what they get on their shortwave radios. They think things are going well. They're outwitting the enemy.
Yeah.
It's like a winning football team that is getting, I guess, bad marks from the sports press. They think they're doing a great job out here and are a little angry at the press.
Yeah, well, they probably should watch other coverage apart from just one network. Keep them up to date on what we're doing, Bob.
Where we have our video phone up.
Hey, Bob.
NBC fans.
Hey, Bob, what do you do when there's a firefight? I mean, you've talked a number of times about how your unit has been...
in the background there? Right, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. There's a lot of artillery out here.
I understand.
What I do is I get both of our cameras out, get up, and just try and get into the thick of it, see what's happening, get a sense of what it is, talk to the Marines, get a sense tactically of what they're doing, what they feel. With artillery, there's not a whole lot you can do. I mean, if it hits you, it hits you. Otherwise, and it's your biggest risk out here. Otherwise, we got pretty good protection. The Marines are sort of watching the perimeters out here, and they appreciate that we're sort of in the thick of it with them. When some of these real loud rounds come in, maybe we, flinch a little bit because we're unused to the sound. They've always heard it a lot more than us, but it's interesting, and they do like the fact that we're out here with them.
Do you stay in one place, or, I mean, you've talked a number of times again about how you've been under fire. Are you literally running with them, or are you asked to stay in one place and they'll come back and get you? How does it work?
The great thing about this, Dan, is there are no restrictions. We run with them. They're going out to the front line. The other night we had those howitzers came in. I went right up to the front line to watch the counter battery radar, see the howitzers work there. We're able to range back and forth across the whole battlefield. Being with this 1st Marine Aviation Group has been terrific because we're able to go from one regiment to the other. We heard there was going to be a big battle of this town, so we flew in a couple of days ago. We've been on the ground here. No showers, no water, no shaving. 1 meal a day is all they're sort of down to. But you're really able to get out here and live with the grunts. We heard there was a battle this morning with the command element. We've asked to go with the battalion into the town. We can see the town in the distance, lots of smoke coming up from it. So we're able to get an absolute first-hand view of this. And amazingly, they have all secret maps. They trust us, of course, that I'm not going to tell you over the air what's on those maps,
right,
or where we are. But we see the whole thing close up, all the command, the close air support, all the forward air commanders. It's a remarkable experience in terms of getting to see how the Marines operate in battle.
I think that's what's enabled you to give us such a vivid, descriptive details, as much as you can, of exactly what you're seeing, and we appreciate it. Bob Arnott, good to hear from you again.
Hey, I'm Bob Arnott here in the streets of in free Iraq. We're here with a U.S. Marine. Tell me your name, sir, and what you do.
Master Gunnery Sergeant Steve Schweitzer. I'm actually with the 1st Marine Division Band, but I've been assigned to do some public affairs work with y'all, sir.
And so what's it like here? A lot of talk about the war, a lot of wait and Kuwait. You're finally here?
It's the most incredible experience of my life to come into this town. I rarely do I say this, but I'm speechless. I am blown away by the spirit, and it's just such a happening in this town, and just an outpour of communication. I mean, no one can speak each other's language, but it's incredible, absolutely incredible.
An amazing story here on the streets of in free Iraq. I'm Bob Arnott, MSNBC. Back to you.
NBC's Bob Arnott traveling with the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force.
And now to the front lines in MSNBC's Bob Arnott traveling with the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force.
It's a little hard to hear you out here. There are 2 Huey command and control helos here, a couple of Cobras overhead. There's just been a major battle. We're, of course, not allowed to tell you exactly where it is, but it's part of a major U.S. Marine push. They say that this whole idea of a wait or a sort of quiet period is nonsense. We've gone over the complete game plan from soup to nuts. Of course, we're not allowed to share that until the time has come, but it's a very aggressive and very impressive plan. The headline is that they do expect to be, as they say, slimed They fully expect a chemical attack. There are what they call BM-21 rocket launchers, which are its most efficient system. They are close to a village here. Everybody's now getting to their nut gear, and they're quite, not fearful, but they're expecting this, and they expect to be able to fight through it. If a division is hit by chemicals, or say a squadron or platoon, they'll quite quickly cycle them back, and they mean quickly, not days or weeks, but hours, and recycle them back in with new MOP gear. We're talking to some of the villagers here. What's happening increasingly is the villagers point out the bad guys, as they call them, the Bath Party members. Signal them out. They're then rated. The U.S. Marines said it would take them months to do this, but it seems as if the population is turning. There's a certain amount of mistrust after 1991 when they felt that they really were abandoned by the Army when they were here. They trust the Marines. When they said, please don't go, they said, listen, we go nowhere but forward, and they're deliberately leaving Marine components behind here to take care of these civilians. So it appears to be a turning day in this battle towards Baghdad. Very aggressive moves here, people getting geared up. Yeah, we can't share these operational plans with you. We've been into some of these villages. People do cheer. You do see children waving, dancing in the streets with U.S. Marines. Of course, still this reticence. But the good news is the Bath Party is being turned in by the locals, and they are either being taken prisoner or they're being shot. Now, the engagement that is up and coming here is against the Republican Guard. It will be the first major engagement with major divisions of the Republican Guard and some special Republican Guard. They're gearing up. They're on their game. We've gone over the game plan. It looks like it basically looks like a Super Bowl game strategy on steroids when you look at all the different blocking and well, I don't want to go into technical terms here because I don't want to give any of this away, but a very, very impressive plan here. It's getting hot, but it's felt that the weather will turn to the advantage of the Marines in terms of the way the wind is blowing, so that if chemical warfare agents are used, they will not be of any great advantage to Saddam Hussein because they'll blow right back on his own troops.
Bob, since it's clear that we're heading into the most dangerous part of this war, how would you describe the mood among the Marines you're with?
Well, it's interesting. Right now we're with what is called a command element, and these are like the best football coaches in the world. They are just, they're tough. They're completely reassured. I just interviewed General John Kelly, who's the assistant division commander out here. They don't like these guys. They really think they're hoodlums, they're bad guys, they're very angry with what they've done to the regime. They've seen summary executions of women and children as the street as they waved as American troops went by. They're angry at them, and they're absolutely bound and determined. The individual Marines, of course, say, every day out here, every day on the attack is one day closer to home. Back to you.
Bob Arnott, thank you very much. MSNBC's Bob Arnott is traveling with the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force, in fact, a command element of that force. Bob, what's happening where you are right now?
Well, it was a very dramatic morning. It began about 5 a.m. where there was a heavy artillery order from the 155 King of Battle howitzers onto a village here whose name we cannot give you. There were Cobra Cothin airstrikes. We actually saw the artillery that attacked us the other night. They're called D-30s. There were 6 of them. They came within several hundred yards of our position, almost killing a large number of Marines. And these were taken out by these King of Battle howitzers. Very impressive weapons in that they have the kind of pinpoint accuracy you would expect of a laser-guided missile from a jet. But, of course, they're cheaper. They're much easier to rain fire on because they're right there and they're ready to go. Great deal of success. We interviewed General John Kelly, who is the assistant division commander here. He went over the sort of future plan of attack, which of course we cannot talk about except to say it is very, very aggressive. He outlined the overall sort of battle strategy, where the Marines fit into it, how aggressive they intended to be. He did warn us very sternly. He said that we were about to cross the red line, in which he believes Saddam Hussein would use chemicals. Also, there are what they call BM-21 rocket launchers. It's the most likely vehicle that they will use chemicals because it can launch 40 salvos at the same time. They need to have 40 rockets or more at a time, up to 200. We have the 5 different salvos of 40 to be able to lay out enough chemical to really be of any great danger. On a humanitarian front, I do wear another hat as a board member of Save the Children. I've been speaking on a regular basis to our president, Charlie McCormick, about efforts here inside Iraq. It is a very, very dangerous place to try and drive a convoy in, even more dangerous to go into these towns where Ba'ath members come in and out, where guerrillas, where Fedayeen make their way in and out of these villages. A very, very tricky situation. This recently liberated village, the villagers came out to us spontaneously. A real sort of change, of course, from a couple of days ago where the fear seems to be gone. gone. They're very, very hopeful that the Ba'ath regime will not come back in. Some actually wanted to join the U.S. Marines, sort of touch their uniforms and guns, saying that they wanted to go to Baghdad and take out Saddam Hussein. And it's important because, you know, people have been on the fence. They've been very concerned about whether the Marines would stay. They try to give them that assurance the Marines will stay here. They're giving out humanitarian aid here, and a real sort of genuine fondness for the Marines, and a real sense that the tide may be turning here in terms of those who believe they will be safe. But in terms of the humanitarian effort, it's still a very, very dangerous cowboy country here, and there's a lot more work that has to be done before it's safe for U.S. humanitarian groups. One final note, and that is that there's a very short timeline before malnutrition rapidly increases here, 30% malnutrition in this country to begin with, and a very high rate of diarrhea, which kills children in this country. Back to you.
Bob Arnott, thanks very much for the latest from there. MSNBC's chief foreign correspondent, Bob Arnott, is on the move inside Iraq with the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force and joins us now live by phone. Bob, what's the situation where you are now?
Chris, you remember a couple of days ago, we were within about 300 feet of being killed by some medium-range Iraqi artillery. Well, today they took that artillery out. In fact, you can hear some artillery outbound. Well, we know it's inbound or outbound. You can hear that in the background right here. I'm at what they call the command center here. It's amazing. They have all the battle maps. They have all the air commands and whatnot. And as I stand here, you'll have artillery strikes called, Cobra strikes. You'll have overhead air strikes called. They have been able to take this town, which I obviously cannot tell you the name of this particular town. Just an incredible scene. Cobras heading in, overhead artillery from in back of us, from in front of us. You'll have these RAPS rounds, which is a rocket sort of propelled projectile that is able to travel a great distance. The calls come in. They have a battery radar device that's able to return fire, and there's been a tremendous amount of action today. The Republican Guard were actually dressed in camo and black berets. They've been able to take this town. They're moving on to the next. General John Kelly came in and briefed us on the entire battle plan, the whole sort of soup to nuts battle plan, which we obviously cannot share with you in terms of timing or detail, but an amazing sort of trust in the press. It's a very impressive, a very aggressive battle plan here. They feel they're winning. When you look at the actual battle, when you look at it in detail on the maps, when we go up with the battalions and you see how it's being carried out, they have game strategy, very much like a football team. You have different diagrams, almost like a Super Bowl football team on steroids. They carry that out, and they feel they win and win and win. They are coming up against the very first sort of Republican Guard units. They're in full strength, some of the special Republican Guard. They still feel they're winning. They're looking at their games. They, for instance, will come along and they'll launch their artillery and move the launchers. They'll launch their mortars and they'll move the launchers. They have, for instance, in town today, there was a tank next to a mosque, and they had a very specific weapon able to take out the tank but not hit the mosque. So it's pretty impressive from here. They're a little down about what's happening back home, and particularly down about reports they hear on the BBC. Chris, back to you.
Bob Arnott reporting from inside Iraq. Thank you very much.
And our Bob Arnott is traveling with Marines. It's just before dawn in Iraq, and Bob, I understand you're in combat right now.
Lester, I can't talk too loudly here, but it's an amazing light show out here. Tremendous artillery battle with the Baghdad division of the Republican Guard. It's the first really big engagement, engaging a huge division of the Republican Guard. You can see U.S. Marine RAPS rounds making their way through the sky, and it's like being in a symphony hall. You hear a percussion instrument at one end and then the other, except the two ends of the battlefield here. Just tremendous sounds of boom, boom, boom on either horizon. They have taken the town of El Hay. We can't tell you the next town that they are after, but it is a major and really sort of brilliant strategy that they have undertaken out here. I had an opportunity yesterday to speak to several of the POWs. Now, we can't interview them, but I speak Arabic, and they're asking me questions about food and water. Some of them clearly just local peasants have been picked up, but some also the toughest members of the Republican Guard with just a haunted and angry look on their face. Another village was liberated here yesterday. We had an opportunity to talk to some of those villagers a little bit more forthcoming. They came out. They were given U.S. rations, smiles on their faces. Some saying they wanted to go with the U.S. Marines to Baghdad to be able to help take down Saddam Hussein. U.S. Marines here are really charged up. We're with a battalion here that's just about to enter a major city here. It's part of a concerted effort. Yesterday at CENTCOM, the commander there, using several colorful four-letter Anglo-Saxon words, basically told the commanders to get going, that this idea of a lull was nonsense, and that they were to attack and be in on the offensive. Although there's still no timeline, it's an amazing battle out here, Lester.
Bob, I recognize you can't tell us where you are. I can report to you that we have been told there's been a major battle with the Republican Guard somewhere near Karbala. Now, without getting into specifics of where you are, can you tell us, do you have some sense of the battlefield in terms of how well the U.S. is doing, or if the Iraqis, for that matter, are inflicting any harm on U.S. forces?
So far, they're not really inflicting any harm. They really own the battlefield. Yesterday, I was in what they call COC with all of the commanders watching the battle space, and it's like watching a Super Bowl coach on steroids in terms of the battle plan, calling every tank, calling in every. For instance, they had black berets on yesterday in camo. They knew where each sort of individual unit is. So they're completely outfoxing the Iraqis. They have just almost no chance at all. In fact, one commander said that the fight had almost gone out of him just because he had sort of rained so much death on the Iraqis. The general who was with us yesterday, John Kelly, said, listen, I want the message out loud and clear. We don't want to kill you. Give up. We don't want to kill you. Lester, back to you.
All right, Bob Arnett with the Marines right now in heavy battle right now in Iraq. And Bob, as an embedded reporter, can't give specifics of location and whether he is, in fact, in that Battle of Karbala. Don't know, but clearly there's heavy action going on, closing in on Baghdad.
Join us now on the MSNBC Live Line is MSNBC Chief Foreign Correspondent Bob Arnott. He is traveling with the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force. Hello to you, Bob. I can tell you right now I'm hearing some activity behind you there. What's going on?
There's a lot of activity. This is the battle for Al Qaeda. It is the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force, and it is a hell of a battle out here. We've taken 3 inbound 82-millimeter mortar shells very close to us. We came up on a T-55 tank, unexpected. They've just taken it out with an AT-4. You can hear that large explosion. More incoming here. Just landed literally about 50 feet from our position. We have the colonel with us here. We can see Amtrak's in the background. They have basically taken the bridge that seals the exit to this town so the troops can't get out. They're furious. They desperately want to get out. You hear the small pops in the background. That's AK-47 fire. The deep throaty ones, you can't tell exactly what they're screaming. The gun's coming around here. He's got the 50 cal. He's ready. He's up. He's ready to fire. An RPG just went down the street. There's a rocket propelled grenade. We can actually hear bullets over our head as whizzes over our head. In the middle of this, though, you can't believe how cool the Marines are here. Tom, tell me what's happening quick. What's happening?
That was a dead RPG, just went down Route 7 from the north to the south. We got a lot of rocket fire. We're shooting up a lot of buildings with rockets and guns, and we've got some enemy both east, west, northwest, and northeast firing at us. We're suppressing them right now. First time 4th Marines is, and I love Chrissy.
Listen, Tom Marks is one of the best battle veterans out here, one of the best people you could ever go into combat with, and we are absolutely in the thick of it. Overhead bullets, RPGs, there's a rocket-propelled grenade, 82-millimeter mortars, all incoming. Outbound, an AT-4, which just took out a T-55 tank. Behind me, U.S. Marines with their mortars. They're all nailed down here. We are surrounded on virtually every side, except, of course, there is an exit here, but these Marines are not going to retreat. They're going to take this bridge, and they are going to hold the bridge. I know you may have some questions, so back to you.
Bob, was this something that you expected to encounter, or was this more along the lines of an ambush?
We fully expected to encounter this. These are very aggressive Marines. You know, they really think that the tactics of these individuals here are either kind of poor or really poor sportsmanship in terms of putting women and children out in front of them. We came over some bridges this morning, anti-aircraft guns. You can hear them screaming in the background here. Tom now has a grenade. He's going to pull the pin on the grenade. He's going to chuck this out of the position. He's now looking down here to make sure that he's got a clear range of fire. They certainly did expect this. They expected a fierce... You can do that's a... Are they shooting this? Okay, we're just getting incoming around here. There's an M16. Tom's shooting up. What are you shooting at, Tom?
One individual.
You can't any more in the thick of it than this. Overhead Cobra helicopters. This is a pinned down position here, but these Marines are not going to give up. They're all ready to fire. He's put up. He sees him.
Green flag, first entrance to this building.
First entrance to the building, they see the bad guy. They're ready to fire. Okay, the outfit is ready. He's taking fire. Tim's shooting all this overhead Cobra gunship. Of course, he can't come into the position because there are anti-aircraft guns on the ground there that could take him out. He's got to stand back. One of the key reasons you have U.S. Marines is they are boots on the ground. They're out here, they're on the street, they're taking out these individuals. We actually saw a puff of smoke. They just came out of the building, shooting battery radar. I was looking at the outbound mortar fire, inbound mortar fire, I should say, to try and return those positions. We can see smoke. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions just infield of us here. Incoming mortar rounds here. Cobra's really trying to figure out how they're going to come in from the ground to the backside. You guys are a coordinated strike. This gives you the best sense of what the U.S. Marines do. Ground and air. Here's the U.S. Cobra. He's coming down. He's about 50 feet over the ground, circling around, trying to come into the bad guy, but he does not want to come in until these Marines have had a better chance to take out an anti-aircraft system that could come in at him. People are scrambling around the Amtrak. It's just an amazing situation. We run up here, see if tell me what's happening here, sir.
Just extraordinary that Bob Arnott is literally asking Marines there right in the middle of gun battle and what they are doing, and they're able to respond. He was telling us that they had managed to take a bridge. They're crossing. I don't know if any of you heard. I wasn't able to make out if it was the Tigris or the Euphrates River.
One company engaged to the north. This is all according to plan.
Bob, can you still hear me?
It's a very dramatic battle out here. I don't want to take all your time. Back to you if you have any other questions or.
Are you kidding, Bob? It doesn't get any more realistic than this. Let's see. Tell me where you are physically, though. Are you in a safe place? Because you're talking about bullets whizzing right over your head.
Yeah, I'm actually standing right outside with these Marines. There are bullets whizzing over my head. I didn't have a helmet, but there was an Iraqi one by the side of the road, so I'm wearing that in a bulletproof vest. But no, I'm right in the thick with them. Jesus Christ. Oh, my God. Tremendous incoming fire. Rocket fire behind us here. The culverts are coming.
In the alley.
Okay, Tom, what did you shoot? Tell me what you did.
One Iraqi with AK-47 in the friggin' alley. They pulled him back in. I got 3 more tanks coming.
We got the colonel here. The colonel is... Colonel, you're on live TV. What's happening, sir?
Well, we've come up and we've secured the bridge to securing El Qud from the east. We're currently engaging enemy with Cobras off to our western flank. At the same time, we've got rounds coming from the city, small arms and RPGs. We've got tanks moving up to support, but we're holding the bridge is fine.
Colonel, you're one of the best people you'd ever want to be in battle. Give me your full name and your regiment.
This is 1st Battalion, 4th Marines. My name is Lieutenant Colonel John Mayer.
John's about as good guy as you don't want to be in battle as. John, Tom, give me a shot.
Hey, here, he pulled him inside. Johnson's freaking trying to lure him out. It's a good shot to the head. Put this tank right here, and my gunner just took out this sniper over here and got pulled. His body was pulled back into the that building right where we're just engaged at 203.
Okay, Tom, you said that's terrible. What do you mean?
Johnson just killed him in the foyer there. Yes, sir.
Now, I got to tell you that, you'd imagine that this would be the situation that a lot of us would be a little upset or anxious, but these Marines, they're gung-ho, they're happy to be out here, they are just have a steep determination to win this time.
It is just past the bottom of the hour, everybody. I'm Alex Wood here at MSNBC World Headquarters. What you're listening to is a raging firefight that is all around. The man you see right there, Bob Arnott, MSNBC's chief foreign correspondent. He is traveling with the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force. He's been describing to us in vivid detail about the attempts to take a bridge by the Marines right there. We're not sure if it's a bridge crossing the Tigris or the Euphrates River. I have heard in all the pandemonium and mayhem here that we're somewhere near El Qud, perhaps. We've been hearing about AK-47 fire, bullets literally whizzing over the head of our correspondent, incoming missiles, mortar shells being lobbed back by the Marines. Let's continue listening in. Bob, can you still hear me? Do you know who the enemy is in front of you? Is it Republican Guard forces?
Well, right into town here, we saw a number of these people getting out of their uniforms. I recognize their uniforms from yesterday. That is the tan uniforms with the black berets. Those are the Republican Guard. They ran out of those uniforms as fast as they could. They left their boots and stuff on the side of the road. They had big arms caches that they'd want to come back to. So on the way into town, people lying down, and you could tell the difference between the soldiers and the civilians because they had no other clothes. They had their shirts off. They tried to surrender as quickly as they could. But now we are engaged with the Republican Guard. These guys don't want to give up. We've had some Fedayeen who really gave up quite easily, some regular Army, some Republican Guard. They don't want to give up this city. This has always been the jugular. This is the way that major invaders have made their way into Iraq for years. The Persians, the British. In fact, the British surrendered at this city back in the early 19th century. It's been the key route in, and it's a very important route for the U.S. Marines. You know, we heard a lot about the Army coming in with their mechanized divisions and the Air Force overhead, you know, huge sort of powerful machine, not engaging these towns. The U.S. Marines engage these towns. They're not afraid to come in here, house-to-house fighting. The other day, I asked the general, John Kelly, I said, you know, what about Baghdad? What about these cities when you go in here? Are you afraid of this? He said, we're U.S. Marines. You know, we took Iwo Jima, and I don't want to use bad language on TV, but he said, Baghdad ain't shit, is what he said. They're not afraid. They're out here. They're door-to-door. It's an amazing thing. These are 18 and 19-year-old soldiers lying down, some of them their very first taste of battle. Jim Bruton, our cameraman, is getting the Cobra helicopter. He's trying to come back in for the strike. Let's just go back to the Colonel here. Colonel, tell me what's happening now.
Right now that the firing is calmed, we brought extra tanks up here, and with our main guns and with the small arms precision fire of these Marines, we seem to have quelled the people in the immediate vicinity. My driver here with his small arms, and he goes 203 rounds. Looks like the situation is well ahead.
Colonel, I just want the American public to hear your name one more time here, Colonel, and the name of your regiment. You're heroic Marines out here in the thick of battle.
This is 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, 1st Marine Regiment, Lieutenant Colonel John Mayer.
John Mayer, you can't get a better commander in battle than that. Now, they say it's calmed down a little bit, but I can tell you, it's still absolutely amazing. We're still taking sniper fire, so they want us to get down here because even though we don't have as much incoming in the way of major munitions, the 82-millimeter mortars, which they've used, also some big, artillery pieces. They have had these D-30s, which attached us the other night. Unbelievable weapons, very big noise, very unnerving, even for experienced Marines to have those land as close as they can. Now, these snipers can take you out at 3,000-4,000 feet if they're really, really good. These guys are not really good, but they can probably take you out at 1,000 feet, and they certainly have that range. So now they have asked us to duck down behind what they call an Amtrak. There's the Cobra. The Cobra's still standing off, still a little worried that there might be something could take that Cobra out. You talk about all of the fighter jets that come in overhead, and, people are grateful for those in terms of taking out really big pieces of artillery. But when it comes to taking out house-to-house like this, when you have snipers, when you have tanks like this that are hidden in buildings or hidden as this one, very well protected, it really takes boots on the ground to do this. A lot of people have sort of second-guessed the U.S. military out here in terms of its ability to take on the Republican Guard. Tactically, they feel they're fools. Now, that's a bullet that just hit the back of our Humvee. Just came in, almost hit, we're literally within about 3 inches of hitting the Colonel. Colonel, that was a bullet that just, you may want to get behind the van there. It's just unbelievable here to be in the thick of battle. They want this, 6 behind it, we're going to want to find the sniper. All right, Gunner. Okay.
Bob?
Okay, Gunner, Tom Fox, hold on just 1 second.
Bob, if you can hear me, tell me, can you eyeball or estimate how many Marines are involved right now in this firefight? Bob Arnott, can you still hear me? It would seem the signal has been lost there. That is incredibly dramatic. We're going to try and reconnect with him, but for the better part of 20 minutes, everyone, you have listened to war at its most fiercest. This is a battle that was being waged by the 1st Battalion, 4th Marines as they were trying to secure a bridge crossing the river, this in Al Qut. I'm being joined right here by Marine Lieutenant General Bernard Trainer, a Marine himself, obviously. General, tell me, this kind of thing, the kind of battle that you've seen, nothing new to what the Marines would encounter nor expect. It was remarkable, Bob Arnott's description of their attitude.
Well, it sounded very familiar, to tell you the truth, and the adrenaline was starting to pump in my blood, too. Yeah, this is at Al Qut. They're crossing the Euphrates River, rather the Tigris River. And they're facing the Baghdad Republican Guard unit. And this is what's known as a meeting engagement, where both sides come together and clash, and that's what's happening. It wasn't an ambush.
When you talk about coming together, how closely coming together? I mean, are you able to literally visualize the enemy? Can you perhaps stare one another down eye to eye in a situation? Because it is midday. Yeah, they're going to have clear viewing.
They're probably within 500 yards of one another at the closest. You really don't see them. Because, I mean, rarely do you see an enemy because he's not stupid enough to put his head up. But you will get a shot at him. You see where the fire is coming from, and you concentrate your fire on that particular point. Now, they're taking AK-47 fire, so they're probably within 500 yards. They're probably somewhere in the vicinity of 150, 200 yards, and they're taking mortar fire, and they're taking RPG fire. So it's a close-in combat at this point.
General, I'm told that we have Bob Arnott back on the phone with us. Bob, can you hear me? And if you can, Bob.
Yes, I can. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Bob, we were asking the number of Marines involved in this firefight right now. Can you guess on this?
Oh, how many Marines are involved here? Okay, yeah. we have about 8 behind us here, mortars. Right here, we're in a pin-down position. There are about, I'd say, 6 of us here with an Amtrak and 2 Humvees. It's pretty loud out here. I can't hear you as well because my hearing is been, I think, affected a little bit by these extremely loud weapons. There's shoot. Tom Parks, he's got his binoculars. He's calling in the fire. We have Johnson, Taco. They're already. We really got to know and trust these Marines with our lives, as you can imagine. It's an important battle. As you know, the 1st Marines yesterday bridged the Tigris River. Now, there are a series of what they call feints, drawing the Iraqis off so that this was possible. Now, tremendous fire out in the background. All of them are up. You see the buildings in front of us just lit up in smoke. The key was... Jesus Christ. Wow. Just tremendous percussion from these guns here. They're come up Route 7, they're on Route 6, they're on their way to Baghdad. The Marines are very aggressive out there. They're in the thick of it. They're absolutely in the thick of it. Everybody is down here on the ground. They've all got before we said the Colonel said when you were in a calm, there's no calm any longer. Everybody who has a gun is shooting. Everybody who has a gun is shooting all positions. North, west, east.
Bob, do you
now
feel...
you can hear the background.
Bob, are the actions right now more on the offensive or the defensive from the Marines?
Well, the Iraqis here, because they're in a defended position, have some advantage. There are a series of buildings around us. They're 1- and 2-story buildings. They have a bridge there. I can see tremendous fire in the background now. So we're not in vehicles. We're out in the open. Of course, they have sniping positions. Overall, tactically, do they have any chance? Absolutely not. You know, could the Marines take casualties? They're very, very careful out here, having firing line, making sure that they don't accidentally shoot at each other. I see a fire coming up in the background over here. There's smoke. It looks like a scene out of Apocalypse Now. I mean, I've seen a lot of war movies, but there's just nothing like this in terms of the width and scope of this. There are M1, A1 tanks ahead of us trying to provide cover, Amtrak's where we are. Now, you probably hear some Arabic in the background. The translators saying, give up your life. You're about to lose your life. You're about to die. Don't die for Saddam Hussein. Now is the time to come out. Come out now. Save your children. Save your wife. All along the route, what's interesting is we have lots of people who were willing to give up. But what we're running into, and this is an important thing,
What they're doing right now is building
General,
up
right.
they're building up their firepower. This is what happens when you're in engagement like that. You build up your firepower to suppress the enemy, and when you do that, you maneuver around them and destroy them. So that's what's going on right now. That's why this concentration of fire is going in, just rifle, machine gun fire, tank fire, and from the helicopters overhead. You build up fire superiority to suppress the enemy, and then you send your attacking force in to destroy them.
And these are Cobra gunships?
They're using Cobra gunships right now, yeah.
Okay.
And they probably even call in Harriers if they want some heavy bombs to go down on there.
They could call for that sort of reinforcement, and then that can just come in and obliterate with a bomb.
That's right.
The opposition there.
The Marine Corps operates an air-ground team. They have their own aviation, so they not only have the Cobra gunships, but they have the FA-18, like the one that was shot down today from the carrier, but they also have the Harrier, which was the vertical takeoff and landing, and they're on call at all times. So if they feel that they need something heavier than what they have on the scene, they can call that in.
Thank you, General. Bob, I understand you're back with us, which is good. I was going to ask you this question, Bob. How safe are you? Because you mentioned earlier you were out there without a helmet on.
Well, here's the thing. If there's an inbound mortar or rocket shell or rocket grenade, you're dead. There's nothing you do. You're just dead. In terms of, inbound rifle fire, they have much better flak vests than we have and much better helmets. We are behind an Amtrak and a Jeep here. Tom was just saying that these people have a real will to fight. He has just taken on a Iraqi. We saw his head explode in front of us. The other Iraqis took him. They took him back. They are not going to give up. These men are not going to give up. These are the roughest, toughest of the Republican Guard. They are now being assaulted by an M1A1 tank. There's 62-millimeter mortar behind me here. An AT-4 has been shot into them. But what's interesting is how judicious the U.S. Marines are. If they have a shot, they'll shoot. But they do not want to take any civilian casualties here. They're not going to just blow up this building. Women and children are allowed to leave. And, of course, when you look at these women with tears in their eyes, just this terrible kind of fright, being in a situation like this, it just, is it going to fit? Okay, we have tanks coming in over here. Now, this is sort of like being at the Alamo and then having the cavalry come in. We're looking at a series of M1A1 tanks coming in here to start taking out these positions. The U.S. Marines are light. These Amtraks are pretty light vehicles. These are the same ones taken out in Al-Nazariya. You remember with an RPG, took one out, killed a number of U.S. Marines. They realize how vulnerable they are. Just came in. You can see the rockets streaking across the sky. They're very grateful to have these tanks in. They're coming down the other side of the road. And it is like in the movies, watching the U.S. Marines come. We have 3 of them coming slowly along the side of the road. These, of course, the M1A1 tanks.
Bob, you're talking about the Baghdad Republican Guard, which we know has been considerably decimated already by these airstrikes and ground forces moving in. You're talking about how tenacious they are. Can you give us any idea of the numbers that you're battling right now?
Okay, I can just hear part of that because these weapons are going out in between the different parts of your questions. I did get, what about the Baghdad Division of the Republican Guard? You see, everybody talks about attriting forces. They all talk about the Air Force coming overhead and dropping bombs and whatnot and attriting them. But, we learned from Kosovo. We learned from Serbia. We learned from many recent battles, including Afghanistan, that when you look at those battle damage assessments, there's a lot of stuff that's still out there. These people have a tremendous will to fight. They are the vaunted Baghdad Division of the Republican Guard. Tom, what are you saying here?
Seeing tanks come up. The colonel just instructed me to set them in right here.
Okay, we're going to set tanks in now. Let me just describe kind of the position. We're on like a 2-lane, not super high, but 2 lanes that you can travel north or southbound on here. This is Highway 7 leading into the city. Okay. They're instructing to come over on the other side. What are you going to do, sir? Come over. What are you doing? What's that? What are you doing?
We're just loading up our mortars, getting them inside.
Okay, now they're loading up on mortars to bring the mortars in here. Here's the situation. We are standing back probably, I'd say 150 feet from a whole series of tan buildings. It's probably about, 500-600 feet long. They're old-style buildings. They don't have windows in them at all. This is where the attack is coming from. It's where the Republican Guard is holed up. So, in terms of counterattack, we have 2 actually, Abrams tanks that are coming along here. Behind us here, a whole series of U.S. Marines. They now have their mortars, and they're ready. Oops. The back of the Amtrak is coming down here, ready to unload some more equipment, ready for the counterattack. A very sort of precise way that they go about this. This is, a lot of us will sort of improvise in battle, and they do the improvisation they have to do, but they understand their tactics. Now these Marines are loading up. They're going to load up this Amtrak to go right at them. They're going to stick to them. They're saying, excuse us. Here, there. Move, they're saying. Where are you off to? What are you doing here, sir?
We're getting back in the freaking track. We're getting back in the track.
Okay, they're getting back in the truck. These U.S. Marines with mortar. Now that the tanks have arrived and their lives have been on the line, they're getting back in so that they can be safe inside the Amtrak. Now, these are huge howitzers here. The tanks are brought in for this reason. You remember from Mogadishu, the terrible sort of Black Hawk Down incident. You remember in Al Nasiriyah how those Amtraks were taken out with simple RPG fire. Well, this roll-build armor, RMA, that's the amount of protection you have in an Abrams tank. If my recollection is correct from one of Tom Clancy's books, it's over 400 inches. There's nothing they have that can go through that tank, and that's why they brought the tanks in. They can sit here and they can pummel them. Very important that the tanks have come, because this now allows these Marines to take cover, to get back in their Amtrak, to get the M16s and the light weapons out of the way and let the big boys really sort of take over. Still not safe enough for the Cobras. They'll want to get these M1A1 tanks into position, start to take fire, and once they've done that, you hear that big thud in the background, that's what they call the king of battle. We have 155 millimeter howitzers out here. They're unbelievable weapons, very, very loud, a variety of different kinds of projectiles. They can illuminate around at night. They're what are called RAPs. These are rocket-assisted projectiles that are able to go many kilometers longer than conventional artillery. But what's interesting about this is you don't see an F-16s out here. There are no F-18s out here. There are no F-15s out here. There is no Air Force out here. It's too dangerous. It's too much in the way of anti-aircraft fire. Too much in the way of sand. They can't come in low enough, and that means the grunts on the ground have got to be able to handle the situation. They can do that with artillery. Artillery is precise enough to hit the middle of a 55-gallon tank from 10, 15 miles away. So they're starting to aim what they call the kings of battle. But one thing you have out here is what they call fire lines. You want to make sure that you don't have a friendly fire incident. They're very, very fearful of hurting their own Marines out here. And so they'll line this all up to make sure that they're only shooting at the enemy. They'll take their time. Now, a lot of criticism of U.S. Marines maybe not moving fast enough. But you know what? They're going to take the time so they don't lose lives. They could make a crazy assault on this compound. They could all run in there and take a lot of casualties. But they do it in a very meticulous way. Very methodical, meticulous way. Now, Tom Fox is running out here. He's all alone. He's running behind that tank to really give him instructions. Tom has seen the play-by-play on this. He knows where the snipers have been. He knows where the men are that brought back the individual that he killed. He's running up his tank to give him sort of personal instructions on how to take this out. And I got to tell you, Tom is one of the most famous Marines in the Corps, Tom Parks. He is the weapons, one of the weapons company leaders out here. Just tremendous self-confidence, giving all these Marines a sort of boost. You got to remember, a lot of these are 18 and 19-year-old kids who are out in the thick of battle for the very first time, just doing a remarkable job, but doing a remarkable job because of the leadership of the Corps. You know, amazing leadership that, you know, they've been out here 20, 25 years. I want to just go back here to the battle commander. Sir, just tell me how things are going, if you will.
We have a little break in the signal right here from Bob Arnott. For those of you who are joining us, we have passed the quarter hour here. It's 1:48 here in the morning on the East Coast. You are listening to a raging battle right now. It is going on in the town of Al Qut as members of the 1st Battalion, 4th Marines are trying to take a bridge crossing the Tigris River. Al Qut is southeast of Baghdad. You see on your screen right there. Bob Arnott is our MSNBC chief foreign correspondent. He's been embedded with the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force. This has again been about 35 minutes now of this raging firefight. We've been taking it live for you. We know, at least at this point, that as safe as Bob Arnott can be, he is. He has donned his helmet, he said. Let's continue to listen in on the action.
Okay, now we have the battle commander here who just spoke to you here. He's looking at a map of the city. He knows where the different Republican Guard elements are. Now, listen in. Through the Arabic here, we have a translator here. Again, he's saying, give up, you're going to lose your life. What's extraordinary is he said it again and again. Give up, they won't give up. Now, Taco, who's our machine gunner here, he's just cleaning off the top of his Humvee. Listen to this. Listen to all those cartridges. I mean, that's probably more ammo than he's ever fired in his life. Tom, tell me,
we can protect your photographer.
Oh, she's going to move forward to protect the photographer here, which seems like a very good idea. Hey, Jim, your direct line of fire. Come back over here. I don't want you to get shot. All right, now this is a John Wayne part of the move here. Oops, our Humvee has just run off the road. It's stuck. Hopefully we'll get it back around here. Having these tanks in here has given everyone a great deal of reassurance. Amazingly enough, there are civilians walking between the tank and the compound here. There are also a couple of soldiers are surrendering. There are 2 of them coming out. They have a big white flag. They're not running. They're coming out very, very slowly, and the Marines are in no hurry to run up to them as they had in the past. They'll let them walk out slowly. This is the first time that there may be any kind of surrender. Now, what the Republican Guards have done in the past is this is like the NKVD during World War II, where the Soviets had a whole division that would shoot you if you were not willing to engage in the battle. These are not being shot in the back of the head. Now, we do have some civilians. I'm just looking at some kids that are waving. They have a dog. There's a little baby in their hand. They're walking out towards us here. Obviously, very, very frightened. They want to make certain that they don't have anything in the way of bombs or that they have anything with us. They are just, it's a woman, it's her husband. They have a couple of dogs. It looks like a family. They're smiling. The woman here is just absolutely scared to death. Let's just put them in the foxhole. Salam alaikum. Ahlan wa sahlan. Okay, salam. Okay, in here. Ajlis, okay? Now, you're going to get hit. Come on. Come down here. I want you in this hole. Get in this foxhole. Come here. Come on. I want you in here. Take the baby. Get the baby in here. It's very dangerous. It's okay. Listen. Get in here. Get in. Come on. In here. Down in the hole. You'll be safe. Okay? Ajlis. Okay? Okay? This poor girl is just crying. She's terrified. There's a foxhole here. Okay. The colonel has come out. We'll make him say, okay. Tell me. Yes. Elite and Tatab Ila Sayara. Okay? Here. Come here. She's crying. Just a pathetic situation here.
Bob, you said this is a husband-wife. They have a baby with them as well, with you in this foxhole?
Yes, this woman actually is holding my hand. She's hugging me. She's so frightened. Let me just describe what we have here. We have a woman. She looks like about 21 years old. It's Muki. Hadra. She says her name is Hadra. That's what the husband's name is. It's Muka. Lahila. Ismi Tabib Bob. Anasahati wa Tabib. I'm telling you, I'm a journalist and a doctor. We have with us 2 other gentlemen here. It looks like a 10-year-old boy. Nora is the and let's just ask how old they're. Less than what? 3 years old, little baby. Obviously, never seen anything like this. There's a 3-year-old. Hey, is Mookie? Adra. Adra is a beautiful-looking girl with brown eyes. She has a black scarf on, a traditional robe here. Just absolutely terrified. She's hugging me. Now there's a smile. She realized that she has U.S. Marines surrounding her and protecting her from being killed. Just a remarkable situation here. We're now behind a berm. It's by no means safe. We are opposite now from that building. Just an absolutely incredible movement. Let me just ask them if they want anything here. Yes, I've asked them whether they want any water. They said that they would like to have some water.
Bob, Bob, as this family approached you, were they running to you, or were they walking in the midst of this firefight? How is it they escaped injury?
Well, the U.S. Marines will not fire at civilians. They will not fire at civilians. Well, they came along route here. Now, we actually have, hold on, Chris, we have the colonel who's in charge here. Colonel, just give me your name. Tell me what you're doing here with these civilians. We're on live American television.
I'm Colonel Joe Dowdy with one of the regimental combat teams in the 1st Marine Division, and we're just securing some folks here from enemy fire and then trying to compel the enemy soldiers that remain in there to come on out. We'll take good care of them. We'll protect them and safeguard them. And I think the fire is lessened as a result.
I'll tell you what's amazing here is a U.S. Marine colonel who's in charge of this whole regiment, who personally has come down here with us in this trench to make certain that these civilians are taken care of. He's telling them, you're safe, you're going to be fine. Now, we have Tom Barks. Tom has come out here with humanitarian daily rations for them. Okay? Asha? Okay, would you like lunch? We have humanitarian rations here. Tom, let me just explain what these are to them.
Maybe those people with the tank.
Here's some food for you right here.
Bob, have you moved? Bob, have you moved from a foxhole you mentioned? Are you behind a building now? Where are you specifically?
Okay, here's specifically what happened. The building was a Republican Guard where this family walked out from, believe it or not. They walked out, they walked across very slowly, and there was a distance between the U.S. Marines and the building. Probably stupidly, I ran out to, or walked out to them to show that, I was not in any great hurry. Walked out to them. This woman came and she embraced me with just tears in her eye, tremendous sort of fear. She now has her hand over her eyes. She's crying and crying and crying. I took them and I put them into a foxhole there out in front of the Marine position, and the colonel himself, concerned about this family, told us all to basically stand down behind what he called a berm. We're the side of the road, and a berm is a big sand mound out here, so it puts us out of the line of direct fire. Now I'm looking at a little boy. Ismuka. Oh, just a big artillery shell just landed, and they jumped at the sight of it. We just asked this little boy his name is Ismuka. Ma? Ma, he's his name. All right, come Ruha. Come. Umbra. Gosh, so it's hard to understand dialect here, but I believe he's saying that he's 9 years old. He's a little boy. He's on his way to school here. Let me just look at what he has. He has a little sort of folder. He's nicely dressed. He has the rest of his family here. There's also a girl about, I'd say, 8 or so. Jim is capturing all of this on tape here, so you'll be able to see it later. There is a little girl, very, very cute little girl. She's 3 years old. Her daddy is there. He's trying to tie her shoe, but the shoelaces come out. They just really can't believe their good luck that they now are safe. You know what they've done here, and it's a really hideous thing, is that they've taken women and children like this, and they've used them as hostages. It seems clear, of course, we have to finish the reporting here, but it seems clear that they were held as hostages, and for whatever reason were able to escape. A terrifying situation. This girl is still crying, just horrified at what's happened. I'm going to help her open her meal. Let me just tell you what we have here. It's a humanitarian daily ration, and they're a little hard to open. They're like the meals ready to eat. They may be a little unfamiliar with all this food here. Take me a minute to just try and open this up. And it has in there enough really to subside for the whole day. They'll have a little chicken. In fact, this one is chicken. تريد أن تأكل لحم بقر أو لحم دجاج؟ Fantastic. She wants chicken or beef. She says it doesn't matter, and she's laughing at how silly it is to offer a choice of what kind of meal she might have out here in the middle of this. Now you can hear that they want other people to give up. Now, risking their own lives, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 U.S. Marines. Sir, U.S. Marine, you're out here guarding Iraqi civilians. What do you think about your task here?
Well, I know what we're doing is right. You can tell by the way these people look. They're scared. We're not fighting the Iraqi people. We're here to liberate and help them, and you can just tell on their faces. I feel like we're doing a lot of good out here.
And Sir Marine, what's your name?
The name's Corporal Vettel from Illinois.
Corporal Vettel is out here, and his job now is to protect these civilians. They can see a Cobra helicopter in the background here. I'm going to try and open this humanitarian ration with my teeth here. They're very hard to open up. Now, the battle has calmed some. No, it hasn't. I'm sorry it hasn't. They're taking substantial incoming fire at U.S. Marines. Let me just stand up and see what's happening here.
11 p.m. Pacific time. It is also 11 a.m. in the morning. For the better part of 45 minutes, we've been covering what has been a raging firefight being efforted by the 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, part of the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force. This is the attempt to take control of a bridge crossing the Tigris River in the city of Al-Qut. That is southeast of the capital of Baghdad. MSNBC Chief Foreign Correspondent Bob Arnott has been certainly right in the middle of the thick of things. He has just helped some of the Marines help 5 civilians, it seems like to me, come into the safety of the Marines, offering them humanitarian aid. I want to throw it back to you, Bob, right now. Give me a recap of the battle, if you can, what you've been witnessing for the last 45 minutes.
All right, now, that was a Hellfire missile that just went overhead. There's a U.S. Marine Cobra helicopter. These Hellfire missiles are tank killers. And that is the powerful 20-millimeter cannon of the Cobra. The Cobra is now in the fight. The way the Marines operate out here, it's the ground troops who have to make sure that the Cobra isn't going to kill itself, because anti-aircraft fire can take it out. There are rocket-propelled grenades that could hit it, just like it hit those helicopters in Black Hawk Down. So it came up here, it launched overhead, there's another incoming over here on the left-hand side, so they're still able to return some fire. The Cobra's circling around with this Hellfire missile, tremendous sort of whiz and then impact. In all of this, you can hear the Arabic in the background still saying clearly, surrender, surrender, you're going to die, your friends have died, your friends are dead around you. Look at them, they're dead, leave now. But they won't leave now. So this is what they're up against. Now, tactically, big picture out here. The U.S. Marines have been in these skirmishes. They think that they use very poor tactics. But you know what they do? Jesus. Right. Is that incoming or outgoing? Okay, that was an outgoing. Jesus Christ! Wow! Whoa! You have never seen a side like that. That's a here. Come here. This girl wants me to check. Come here. I'm gonna protect you. Come here.
Bob, what was that? Was that a Hellfire missile, Bob, being launched from one of those Cobra gunships?
I'm sorry, with all the fire, I can't quite hear you here. There's a girl, she looks like she's 13 years of age, and I'm hugging her here. She feels much more secure with me here. And these Hellfire missiles, I've never actually seen one fired before. You can see the rocket, the black end of it, and you have this fire coming out the other end. It's like a missile launch, very, very fast. There's another position. This poor girl is now holding my hand here. She can hear the rocket fire coming in, and it's Jesus, unbelievable. Those are all Hellfire missiles from the Cobra. The Cobra's only about, I'd say, 200 feet from me, all shooting into that position. Just absolutely remarkable. This poor girl, let me just ask your name again. Ruki. Majda? Jim, let's get that shot of the Cobra there. Jim Bruton, is a veteran engineer. He's been all around the world. He's out here also shooting pictures for us, which you'll see later in the day if we ever get out of here. But this girl, just a very, very beautiful face, very, very worried in her sort of traditional dress. As her savior here. Of course, we're not. It's the U.S. Marines who are really her savior, but just so grateful that they really were saved from almost certain death out there in the middle of all this. She has her pocketbook there. What's really incredible is this little 3-year-old girl. Jim, come over here for a second if you don't mind. Look, here's this little 3-year-old girl. She has a big smile on her face. She has no idea what's going on. Her T-shirt says Protos de Rivière. It's a French T-shirt, which is a little paradoxical out here. She has a fig bar here. It looks like a fig bar. It's a little silver container. It's like eating a Pop-Tart back in the U.S. So she's sort of being introduced to American junk food here in the middle of battle. So the dogs look happy here.
It's an extraordinary
and it looks
picture.
Like
You're painting, Bob. Bob, first, I'd like for you to recap, if you can, for us, that which we've been seeing for the last 50 minutes or so, this live firefight. Can you just break it down for us quickly as to what kind of ammunition you've been facing there against the Baghdad Republican Guard? And also, let us know once again, Bob, if you are safe where you are right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're not safe. When we get hit by a rocket or a mortar, it's all over. I mean, in a battle like this, there's nothing you can do. We are behind a berm here, which provides cover from rifle fire. But in a battle like this, it's not the sniper shot or the rifle fire that's likely to kill you. NBC actually sent us through this hazardous environment training. Sure, a very good sniper could take you out. You try to, duck from those. But in terms of incoming mortar or artillery, the other night we had 6 mortar shells coming about 300 feet from where we were. Could easily have killed us, and it unnerved even the most seasoned Marines. But let me give you the recap that you asked for. What's happened here is that the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force has bridged the Tigris River. Very dramatic move. They took 2 pontoons that went across the river, and they had another bridge that they took that they've been able to get troops across. They cut off the army from going north-south out, to Basra and back. The Baghdad Division of the Republican Guard is right here in this town. This town is called Al-Qud. We came up Highway 7. They took Al-Hayz the other day. Now they are in this town that's called Al-Qud. If you look at it on the map, it's really... You want some water? Okay, well, I'm going to get you some in just a minute here. Sorry, you're going to have to get her some water. Jim, we see if we can get them some water. No, it's going to be hard. No, we better not. Well, Jim, it's not worth risking your life for some water. We'll have to get them. They'll have to wait a little bit for the water. So tactically, the idea was that they wanted to stop the Republican Guard from being able to retreat out of Al-Qud, and that's what we've been able to do. They cannot retreat out of Al-Qud. They are boxed in. Obviously, I cannot give you the whole tactical strategic plan because that's part of the ground rules, and also would endanger our lives. If we told you what the overall plan was, just where we are here, it's a key bridge. They've been able to maintain that bridge. The Marines want to make certain that they have contained and killed this Baghdad division of the Republican Guard. Now, what's also important about this historically is the U.S. really hasn't gone up against the Republican Guard since '91, and they haven't ever gone up against them when they're defending their capital city, Baghdad. So this is the first real test of how well the Republican Guard will do against the U.S. Marines. And at this point, they, you know, they're not outfoxing, they're not outmaneuvering. We don't see tanks that are suddenly sort of crushing in on our position. They're not really on the offense against us, but because they're dug in, and very cleverly along the side of the road as we came in this morning, they had berms, they had foxhole positions. They would walk around in civilian uniforms, and you cannot believe how quickly they would drop out of those Guard uniforms, the Republican Guard tan uniforms, black berets. They would drop out of those. They'd be in civilian clothing. They'd run, and of course they'd be trapped by the U.S. Marines. Now, a number of these civilians here are still sort of jumping at the sound of this gunfire here. The others, I think, have already sort of gotten used to it at this point. It becomes almost normal after a while. So in the big range of things, remember the Marines have been able to cut off the south and southeast. He cannot reinforce. He can't bring troops up or down to Basra, into Baghdad. He's unable to bring troops up or down to Nasiriyah. That's all cut off. And what's happening in town after town around here, especially the black towns, is that people 3 or 4 days ago were very reticent to embrace us. I shouldn't say us, but the U.S. Marines. Now they're much more willing to embrace the U.S. Marines. And just this morning, just the look, oh, wow, they hit about 300 feet from here. You see black smoke sort of coming out of the side of this building. So they do have our position in. What they do, like a lot of militaries, is they bracket us. They shoot left, they shoot right, they come closer and closer until they actually have hit you. So we have had 1, 2 mortars that have come in really to the south, 2 that are coming to the north, so they're trying to really bracket in on our position to be able to hit us right here. The U.S. Marines have what's called counter-battery radar. They can look at all incoming mortar fire, all incoming artillery fire, then they range that and they go to kill it. They can kill it with the 155 millimeter howitzers that are just outside of town. And what we're hearing now are just single shots here. I think that's a 40 Mike. There's another rocket launch there. There's a thing that they call the LAV. This is a light armored reconnaissance vehicle that the sort of fast reconnaissance people use, U.S. Marines use. And what they do is they blow into town at 60 to 80 miles an hour. The locals call it the destroyer. They are terrified of this. Also interesting is you listen to the Marines talk to each other on the radio. They have call signs like Inshan or Terminator or Apocalypse or Tail Rider. They do love to run into battle. But there's no hatred towards the Iraqis. There's no let's get them. And they've had standing orders, do not shoot unless you're shot at. Iraqi soldiers out there, lots of them, there was no pot shot at them, there was no attempt to shoot them unless they shot in at the U.S. Marines. So that they're really trying to be very, very judicious in terms of their use of fire. I've talked to a lot of commanders out here, and they really think that the tactics of the Republican Guard have been poor. They don't move well, they're bunkered in, they haven't got any of their tanks out into the battle. Of course, they have no air, a lot of them caught by surprise. Now, there's a building that's about 300 feet from right now, but a big black smoke that's billowing out of it. Again, this girl is just jumping. She's just terrified that she's going to get hit out here.
Bob, you talk about the tactics there of the Baghdad Republican Guard, but those that are remaining, how tenacious are they? Because earlier you were telling us there was some sort of broadcast being put out there, loudspeakers saying surrender, surrender, or you won't be hurt, surrender now. What was said in that message?